Yo, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Good to see you again. Hope everybody is doing well. I know I've been on a bit of a hiatus recently. I haven't really been uploading as much, but I have been kind of busy. I've got a lot of stuff going on, but also I just feel like I don't know, I've kind of run my course of this EB01 meta. But I did have a couple of fun matches that I played at locals recently, so I wanted to upload a few because I thought they were pretty great. And one of which is up against Ace here. I'm playing Gecko Moria, and I'm playing up against Ace. This is just a weird... Ace is such a weird leader to play in this meta, because I'm thinking to myself, like, I should probably be keeping this hand because of Sabo. Sabo is just really nice in defending my board, but I am taking my time kind of deciding whether this is the optimal hand or not. And I don't know. It's one of those things that I decided to mulligan, but I didn't feel great about it because I did have 2 Cinderies, I did have a Sabo, but I knew that if I didn't get lucky with my Cinderies, it was going to be a pretty tough matchup. And I wanted to take my chances, see how it goes, and after the cut, my opponent did get to choose first or second. As you can see, the hand we drew into, not that much better, obviously. We end up getting the Sabo, but 2 Morias is a little too late game for us, and he's just going to pick up that 5-cost Marco off the Ezo search. I do get to play my own brand new, though, which is nice, and I'm definitely going to pick up the Great Eruption. Ice Age is fantastic for getting rid of a lot of those pesky 5-cost cards that they have, but Great Eruption does at least give me a card cycle, which is really nice. And so he's just going to go 5 to life. I'm thinking of whether I want to counter out of this or not. I do choose to, and then he plays Shariah. Shariah is a bit of an interesting call here in the Ace list. I like it. I do think that it has some really good usefulness in a lot of the matchups in the current meta, but I have practically no plays, so I'm just going to use Great Eruption, see if I can draw into something lucky, and look at that, Absalom off the top, pretty dang good. I'm going to go 6 to life, though, getting rid of the Absalom, and lucky for us, we find another. So now I've got Absalom as well as Lucci set up in trash and Helmeppo for the good old Gecko Moria play. I know that I don't have a ton of counter in hand, so I am just trying to stay as healthy as possible at the moment. With the 5k to life, unfortunately, I do end up taking this, but it's not all too bad because we end up getting the Hina Absalom here to pop his Marco and force a card out of hand is always nice. So I'm definitely just going to be doing that. -4 to the Marco. Probably going to go ahead and trash Hogback if I had to take a guess. Might be a little greedy keeping both of these Morias, but I do feel relatively confident. And I'm going to trash a Sindri as well as a Hogback. I do get the Absalom, so I force out a Radical Beam from my opponent's hand. Always love to see that. And now the hardest part for me is deciding which cards are going back to the bottom of the deck. I end up going with Hogback and Rebecca here just because I know that I have another Hogback to put in. And then Rebecca, I don't think I'm going to get much usage out of it from a Moria play. But he gets a Whitebeard Pirates off of life and searches out a Jozu. Will counter out of the swing as well. And now, yeah. Now we're just passing it back over after the Absalom attack. The Ace, the Rush Ace here is just going to make Absalom a 2k. I'm going to counter out of the first one because it at least forces a 5, 6, or 7k swing into it. Sadly, though, I have no counter power in hand whatsoever. I've got like the 1k. So I'm just going to have to take this. I end up picking up an Ice Age. Now I'm going down to 2 life. Little scary, not going to lie. Don't want to be a 2 life at this stage of the game, especially up against something like, why am I forgetting the name of it? The 7-cost double, I believe it's called Flame Emperor. It's a 7-cost double attack that Ace typically runs as well. So Flame Emperor, pretty scary, not gonna lie, all things considered. But Ace is on the board. I do have plays. This is my Moria turn, so I can try and do like a Moria play to get rid of Marco, but if I do that, I'm leaving myself with no Dawn, and then it's pretty scary not having counter power after that. He more than likely brings back the Marco as well, so none of my 5Ks will be able to reach it. But I'm going to start with the 5, and this is actually really nice. Flame Emperor kills my Hina. I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, like I just lost a Hina off the board. How is that nice? Well, I didn't want him to have Flame Emperor in hand. So now I feel as though I can kind of change my direction a little bit. I can use Ice Age, pop the Ace, and then play a Rebecca, or I can just use Leader Effect and then play out the Sabo as well. So I'm trying to figure out like which is the best route though, but I do decide like Ace is a bit of a threat. I don't like it. I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to keep going towards life here. I'm going to go ahead and trash a Moria. We get another Absalom into trash, so we're seeing all of them, which is fantastic, but it also doesn't help me too much in this matchup, simply because, you know, hey, if they've got the recurring Marcos in the deck, it's pretty tough, but he's going to counter out with that Jozu he picked up earlier, and now I'm just going to go ahead and use Rebecca. I decide whether I want to use Hina or Hogback, but I decided to just take the 1k counter since we were kind of lacking counter power anyways. I know the Rebecca's more than likely just dead here, but it's fine. Like, I got a card out of it. It becomes a distraction. If he does choose to rest 5, then that's 5 Dawn gone from attacks to get rid of my Rebecca, so I'm okay with that. And he does just that, using the Marco to tap the Rebecca. I believe this 7 is going to life. I know that I have a good amount of power, or a good amount of counter, but I don't want to give him everything here, so I'm kind of banking on the fact that my opponent's probably going to swing like 5 or 6 with leader, rather than just all 8 to life. But who knows? We might be going down to 0 here, depending on what my opponent does. We also see an 8. We're going to see 7k, but he's leaving 1 Dawn active. So I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, I'm probably got to work against like a Radical Beam or like a Guard Point or something. And, you know, that's really kind of like my biggest threat. But he chooses to go Ezo. Ezo here is losing the 1k counter, but potentially just finding an event, which is still for Ace 1k counter. So not really much love lost. If he does find Jozu, Jozu's really annoying. I just don't want him to have a 2k counter, but he ends up picking up Seaquake. Seaquake's not going to be that big of a threat for me. I guess maybe if I end up playing like another Rebecca, that's actually a pretty solid option, all things considered. But this is looking like a Sabo turn. Like, I need to pressure life a little bit and then hope that Sabo draws me into some counter power, and then just kind of go from there. But swinging 5, always kind of scary. Maybe should play Sabo first here, all things considered, just because my opponent could have like a trigger that KOs one of my characters right off the bat. I'm not sure if I think about that immediately in the moment, but it's definitely noteworthy. Like, I really just don't want to lose a character to something so simple. But I'm actually I was just doing the 5 as like a little test, because if it got through, then I probably could have went for game. But since he didn't have the Dawn active, of course, but now I can just kind of pivot. I'll go 6 into his Marco, seeing if he'll let it go or if he will defend it with another card. And I believe he gives me a Shariah here to counter out of the Marco. And I'm just taking a look at the leader ability here, because I couldn't remember whether the event counter was only for leader or if it was for characters as well. But I'm going to go 7 here, and I believe I'm going 7 to life, which, yet again, I feel like I should have just played Sabo at this point. I don't hate it, but at the same time, I don't love it. I think that just playing Sabo down would have been totally fine. Just protecting my board just in case he does get a nasty trigger, but lucky for us, no such thing. And Sabo draws me 2 dead cards. Really rough. I'm going to end up getting rid of both of my Morias here, passing the turnover. I was a little bummed about that, I'm not going to lie. I was really hoping for some counter power, because if I could keep my entire board this turn, I don't think there's any way that my opponent can defend up the following turn. So we have 2/2Ks in hand and a Dream. My opponent is going to go 5 into the Absalom. I think there is a world where, since I know what my opponent plays out after this, I think there's a world where I could just snap block this with Sabo, but it's kind of a weird decision. I end up deciding to let it go because I wanted him to feel comfortable attacking into my other Absalom for lower amounts. So he goes 6 here into the 5. I know that I have the 2Ks. I kind of take some time to think about it. Should I be countering this or should I just be letting it go? He still has all 10 Dawn, and I'm kind of contemplating, like, what's the worst case scenario? So I will counter out of this because I got into my mind that the worst case scenario was if he played 2 blocker Marcos. And so now attaching 1 to Marco here as well. He's more than likely just going to be going Absalom as well. If this was at life, I actually would have to probably defend as also, because there is always the threat of playing against the Rush Ace, which is going to have like the 5-cost Luffy that goes through blockers. But this is just going to be a 7 into Absalom. I'm going to ask to check the trash because now that I think about the 4-cost blockers, I'm like, did you ever counter out with any? And he hasn't. And I'm like, you have 9 Dawn left. I could see him playing 2 and then leaving 1 Dawn up for like a Radical Beam or a Guard Point or something. So that's kind of my train of thought right here. And I know that I could just die if he just swung with Ezo, like did a 5 check and then attaches the rest to Ezo. But I put him on not going for that and playing more defensively. So I actually did call it really well, which ended up working out fantastic for me. He does play the double Marco blocker, and now I've got the Great Eruption, which is fantastic, to be able to, you know, lower one of the Marcos and then draw into a card, which is fantastic. It was Sabo, of all things. I get to bring down one of the Marcos, but I have Absalom. But now I got to think about my plays. There are multiple cards that can kind of get him out of this in life if my characters are 6k or less. And I'm actually asking my opponent at this moment, I'm like, how much does Flame Emperor kill again? He's like 6k or less. And so I'm kind of thinking about, you know, what's the math? He's got 2 cards in hand, I believe, and so you'll have 3. I know, I believe I had information on one of them. Yeah, I knew that he had the Seaquake. He had Seaquake in hand. Yeah, so I'm just kind of doing some math in my head, and I'm realizing, like, oh yeah, I have to protect my board as well. And I'm like, this is probably the best that I can do if I just decide to go 7, 7, 7, 8, and just kind of pray. And so I'm attaching the 2 Dawn to stop any of those shenanigans. But I am actually taking a bit of a risk. I'm going 6k first. And maybe I should have done that. I don't know. It's tough to say. Like, this is kind of a tough call. You know, I'm attaching the Dawn and I can't remove it afterwards. But 6k, I'm putting him on having a dead card in hand as well as the Seaquake. And he does end up finding a trigger here. If I remember correctly, it is the Whitebeard Pirates. So seeing that twice in life is pretty sick. I'm praying that my opponent does not see a Jozu here. As long as there's no Jozu, I feel very comfortable. And so since he gets the Ezo, now I know that the 7s more than likely will connect since the 6 did before. And so 7 is going to connect here. We're going to get another 7k. He's going to give me the Rad Beam, and now I'm just going to go 8. And we do end up getting it through. So pretty solid, all things considered. I was happy. I thought this match was really fun. There were a lot of moments that I kind of needed to think about, and, you know, my opponent as well. You know, Sabo definitely saved me there towards the end. It didn't draw me any counter power, which was really rough, but at the same time, Sabo was super clutch, so can't really be mad. But guys, it feels great to be back. I'm hoping to upload a bunch more matches over the next couple of days, and I've got some ideas towards OPO7 coming out. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys as always. Hope you enjoyed the match. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.